Hey, y'all, Doc here. Welcome to episode 9 of Cherokee Therapy. And today we're going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to every Jeep owner's heart. Well, maybe not near and dear, but certainly everyone knows exactly what I'm about to talk about because most people who own a Jeep that's lifted have experienced this. And it's a shame because really Jeep with some other design modifications or something could really help us out with this. That's why they got sued. And unfortunately their fix was a steering damper, which we all know is nothing but a Band-Aid, if that. So what are we talking about? Death wobbles. Death wobbles. If you've never had death wobbles, they're scary as hell. And what happens is you're driving down the road and either you hit a speed or you hit a bump, and suddenly it feels like the front end of your car is about to shake itself apart. I'm not talking about a driveline vibration or a little shimmy. I'm talking about a full-on, like the steering wheel is shaking so hard in your hands that it feels like it's about to come loose. So, anybody who's experienced knows it. And this is definitely one of those moments where, you pray and say, Jesus, take the wheel. Now, in some cases, it's the result of catastrophic damage, like in this picture. And Jeep owners have gotten so familiar with this. I found this picture on the internet where somebody has basically, this has got to be a Photoshop job. I can't believe this would actually be real. But steering dampers are not the solution. They are not the solution. The problem with death wobble comes from a number of different kind of sources. And I did a video on it before that I'll link to here above. Pew! In this video. Go check that out. And there are plenty of videos online and articles online that you can look at to examine the causes of death wobble. We're going to focus on one cause here, and it's pretty much the most common cause. And you're probably thinking track bar? Yes and no. Look, everybody says, hey, it's your track bar dummy. Well, yeah, a lot of times it is your track bar. That is usually the kind of most common solution. But really, it's bushings. It's bushings. It all comes down to bushings and your bushings being worn out and tired and ruined. Now, I've had death wobble twice in my vehicle. And the first time was my fault. I bought this cheap, Chinesium-made adjustable track bar on Amazon to use after I lifted my Jeep. And within 3-4 months, that bushing there on the top right totally failed, and I got death wobble. So I fixed that by going with Rough Country. This was, I think, $160, maybe $170 with tax and everything. It had gotten good reviews on forums, and I got to tell you, when it arrived, I was happy with the quality. Really happy with how tough that metal is. The bracket especially is really well made. The problem, though, is that bushing. Both bushings on either side, they wound up being really cheap. Those also failed in 3 or 4 months. And so, I went online to the forums, and I got to say, look, if you go online to the forums, and I've got to do a video now, I'm sorry, but going on to the Facebook group that I belong to and talking about death wobble and Rough Country, the Rough Country simps will come out of the woodwork, and they will refuse to admit that Rough Country is poor quality. And, I was about to actually read some of the comments that I got, and I decided, no, I'll let them, I'll leave those people alone. But I am going to, in general, tell Rough Country simps, you're morons. Rough Country is the lowest quality thing that I've ever seen in my life when it comes to at least the bushings that they send their products out with. And that is how you solve death wobble. I'm going to show you in this video how you check your bushings and everything. But 9 times out of 10, somewhere it's one or more bushings that have gone bad. And maybe it's because you bought a poor quality product in your track bar. Maybe it's because your track bar is ancient and you need to replace the damn thing. But, look, this is what bushings that have worn out kind of look like. It can also be your wheel bearings. That is an issue. But when wheel bearings go bad, you also tend to hear a loud howl. When your wheel bearings are going bad. Usually it's your bushings. It can also be, in some cases, your Jeep is so old that the holes have become ovaled or worn out where your bolts go through. And that's what you're seeing in this picture here. You can see where the dust is covering kind of that bracket there on the lower end of the track bar. And when it moves back and forth, you can see that clean spot that appears. And that's how you know your holes are ovaled out. There are fixes for that. I'm not going to go into this video, but just in general, just keep that in mind. Now, here's the difference. On the right is my Rough Country bushing that I pressed out. Made in Mexico, Clevite, very, very cheap quality. When you look at it from above, you can see that the thing is just, the center sleeve is just rolled steel, not welded. It's imperfect in its shape. And on the right there, I've got, I think, made in America from Iron Rock Off-Road, a bushing that is the exact same specifications, made out of polyurethane, super high quality. Look at the metal sleeve inside there. It's zinc plated steel and perfectly round. You know, the difference is visible. And I can explain to you how it feels, but I can't, you know, you're going to have to trust me on this one. So, you know, let's go back to the rough country simps. Rough country is not high quality. Sometimes you get things, like I said, I'm very happy with the steel that I got in that track bar, not happy with the bushings. And so, you know, it's really my fault. It's my fault. I'm trying to pinch pennies. Rough country is if you can't afford stuff and it's all you can afford, okay, great, go with it. But, you know, understand that it's not a high quality product. So anyway, let's get into the video and how you actually fix this stuff. Wait, before I actually get into how to diagnose and then fix your instance, or at least my instance, of death wobble, I definitely want to show you something that I think is one of the root causes, and that is my rough country suspension. It's ultra stiff. I've mentioned this in other videos in the past, and again, that video I linked to earlier, where I go over the physics of actual, you know, your suspension, how it works, and how it might contribute to death wobble. I have a suspension that basically acts like it has no play. It's like riding on steel rods. So I basically feel every tiny little seam, you know, tar snake, you know, everything on the road. I haven't taken this off road. What you're about to see in these videos is simply town driving and highway driving and what it's like for me. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some videos. I've placed the phone on the dashboard so that you get a sense of what I feel in my seat just by watching how the camera jumps up and down. And listen, in the background, you can hear, well, if I'm going to be talking over, you might not hear it, but I'm going to keep the volume on as I do a voiceover. So this will be interesting. Let's see if this works. Here I am on the highway. I've just basically gone over a bridge to road transition, and you can see and hear the just jarring effect. I can't even explain going over seams like that, what it's like. And as you drive here, I don't even, there's no seam here that I hit. It's this weird bump that just frickin', you know, totally went all the way up through my butt and into my back just by driving on the road. These are not bad roads. When I take my Honda Pilot on these roads, it's smooth, you know, it's totally smooth. I can feel crosswalks when I go over them, the paint. And there's another one. I can literally feel the paint if it's thick enough. Here, as I'm going slower, this is like at 35, 25 in town. Look at how the camera jiggles. At slow speeds, it almost gets worse in some cases, because now I'm feeling every single little bit of the road. And here I'm going on over really slowly, a little bit of a pothole, and you can hear and see the effects. So it's awful. It is completely awful. Now let's get into it. All right, so this is my lighting setup. You want to set up lights underneath your Jeep so that everything you're about to do is well lit, because you're going to put your phone down there and you're going to video from two different angles, like I'm pointing out here, video your suspension. And you're going to be looking for, on this picture here, it shows you, you're going to be looking at these bushings, okay? You're going to look at every single piece of rubber basically that's attached to your suspension. You're going to examine, after you videotape what I'm about to show you, what you're going to do. You're going to examine each of these spots, zoom in. iPhones are great because you can play it back and zoom in to each of these locations and see what's going on. In my case, this is where the problem is right here, this bushing. That is the track bar where it attaches to the axle on the passenger side. The other problem is up on the driver's side where the track bar attaches. Those bushings went bad. Okay, so I've just given you the secret ahead of the story. So anyway, here's what it looks like when you actually, after you set up your cameras, you're going to start the car and you're going to turn the wheel left and right slowly at first, going all the way as far as you can in either direction, and then you're going to go left to right in short, jerky movements. And so I'm not going to speed this up. I'm going to go through this slowly so you can actually see what's going on. All right, so I'm getting in the car now. Just give it a second. And I'm going to start it up. Now watch that bushing, because it's going to tell the story here as I start turning the wheel. And you'll notice that the bolt isn't moving. Like I showed you earlier in one of those pictures, the bolt is not moving. Just the bushing is maybe 1 to 2 millimeters in either direction. It's hard to see when I'm doing the back and forth motion slowly like that. Okay, but this is an important process. Again, you're looking at all the bushings in your suspension. Once I start jerking it back and forth, that's what she said, you can actually see the bushing move back and forth much more, like much clearer there. You see it? See it how it's just slightly moving back and forth 1 to 2 millimeters? If that is enough to give you death wobble. And you're going to do the same on the other side. Back and forth slowly, watching everything, your ball joints, your everything. And you're going back and forth slowly. And you're going to review this when you finish filming. That's a very important step in this process, a close review of all this. But look at that bushing, the track bar bushing. You can see it if you look closely. It's moving back and forth. And then, of course, here you can totally see it. So that's what it's not huge movement. It's not much. But that is enough to give you death wobble. And the other thing you want to check is your steering box. Make sure it's still attached nicely to your frame, because sometimes your steering box can break, or it can break where it mounts to the frame. Number of different places it can break. So you definitely want to check that as well. In addition to the stud, the ball joint that goes through your pitman arm there, you want to make sure it's not like, it's not storing energy and then snapping at a certain point, to break free. So anyway, those are the kinds of things you have to look for. But in my case, it is definitely the track bar bushing. So let's move on to what the fix is. So I'm under the Jeep, and here is rough country track bar. This is one end of it. This is on the driver's side. Nice bracket. I mean, overall, I'm really happy with the strength of the forged steel and the welds on this bracket that they sent with the kit. I am going to have to replace these 2 bolts. These were original with the vehicle, and they're inside. It's the threads are kind of rusted and stuff, so I just want to put new ones in. But again, this is a nice setup. The only problem is the bushings failed. So anyway, I'm doing a video on what's it called, death wobble theory, the physics and everything. It might come out before this one, so if it did, make sure you go check it out. But that's one end. We're going to remove the bolt here, and then that should slip out freely. And then at the far side of the track bar down here on the passenger side, we remove this bolt here and then pull it out. I'm going to do my best not to change this, but I guarantee you I'm going to have to get my ratchet strap out and, make sure that this is all back where it should be. Anyway, now I can't remember if these are the original bolts. I don't think they are, but that's a 19 millimeter on the driver's side, and down there is a 17 millimeter on the passenger side. So you may have different size bolts. Anyway, we're gonna get started. I'll be back when I'm done unbolting that stuff. All right, got this side out. When I was getting it out, I was twisting this like up and down, side to side, and I could feel this bushing. You could see it just move, so I'm gonna have to press this whole thing out, and hopefully the replacement I have is the right size. We'll see. All right, got the other end out. Forgot that Rough Country decided to replace the flag bolt that comes with the original OEM stuff with just a regular nut. I had to use I think 11/16 box end to get in there. That worked. It's probably metric, but this was the first thing I found that worked. So anyway, that's out. We'll go ahead and press out the bushings next. So I've just inspected the bushings, and I'm not seeing anything obvious in terms of cracking or signs of deformation. It looks good. Not that I expected to see that. I mean, this is, before rubber cracks and stuff and it starts to fail, it doesn't necessarily, you're not necessarily going to have anything you're going to be able to see. So on with the pressing. Nothing's ever easy with Jeeps. This just, according to the research I did, this Moog part should fit, right? And I've seen other videos, people have had the same problem where, great, but the bolt they have for the upper part doesn't fit into the Moog sleeve. So I'm gonna have to take this sleeve, fit it into this hole, which means I'm probably gonna have to drill out the polyurethane a little bit, and I don't have a drill press. So this is gonna be fun. All right, got it in the vise. Got that cup from my bearing press kit to receive the stuff and press up against the actual, what's it called? And apparently I have the wrong socket. I have a really crappy vise too, so we're gonna see if this works. Wait a second, I've still got the wrong socket? How big is this thing? I got a spindle nut from a Honda. Looks like it's the right size. We'll see if that works. I'm gonna have to put this down. I need 2 hands. Well, the spindle nut didn't work, and I managed to essentially press out the center along with a bunch of cleavite, but I still gotta get that metal part around, so maybe I'll try a hammer and chisel. We'll see. Got the cleavite out. Just used a screwdriver, pounded it in between the cleavite and the outer race of the bushing. Now I gotta get that outer part of the bushing out. So I'm just gonna try. First of all, there's a little bit of a lip on this edge, and the other edge is where it got pressed in from. So I gotta push it out in that direction. I'm just gonna take a flat piece from my bearing press kit and try and get started out and then go from there, see what I can find. So I'm taking a screwdriver and a big sledgehammer, and I'm just bending in the lip that I just pressed on. And hopefully if I keep going around, it'll bend it enough that I can A, fit a washer on there, and B, it'll move more smoothly out of the actual track bar. Progress. All right, I'm gonna try this mounting plate for a strut, see if that works. I'm gonna press on that. Hopefully it'll push the rest of the steel out. That did it. That little thing, perfect size. Just couldn't get it on there when the rubber was in there, and when the lip was intact, I had to bend it all the way in. Tough job. Now let's see. I just want to test fit one of these, see if it's the right size. My luck, it won't be. No, I think that's the right size, because that's going to be tough to push in. That's good, at least. Now let's see. Yeah, that's a problem. That's a real problem. In case I need to get some special bushings for this end, I'm just measuring. So that looks like it's about, let's make sure I'm centered. That looks like it's about that can't be right, 4 centimeters, 40 millimeters across. I'm so bad at reading these things. It looks like it's exactly, almost. Let's see, I'm reading the centimeter hash marks. Can't focus this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3 8/10 centimeters, I think. Let's make sure. 9, 10, yeah. 3 8/10 centimeters. 38 millimeters. Let me just confirm that with the bushing. Hopefully it didn't deform. I may have to, this is going to be hard to do with one hand. I'll get back to you guys. So the bushing race was a little more than 3 8/10 centimeters, just over, how many inches? Just over 1.5 inches. So just in case I need those measurements. Now this thing supplied with the rough country kit is just over 2 centimeters, 21 millimeters. So I'm going to convert that to inches and drill a hole that's slightly smaller. All right, so I actually used a 1/2-inch router bit to get, I didn't have a big drill bit. So I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to trust it. And I'm going to drive very carefully. And I'm going to order a specialized bushing online, Synergy or some other good manufacturer. And as soon as those come in, I'll replace it again. But this should get me by for now. I don't recommend doing this. This didn't work. You know, your mileage may vary with these internet advice things. So definitely do your research. And in this case, I did do my research. But you know what? Sometimes you get bad advice from multiple locations. Okay, again, looks okay. I don't trust it. Don't like this side. Sorry, y'all, had a problem with video. One of my files got corrupted. What happens here is, you know, I've pressed in the Moog things for the driver's side of the Moog bushings for Moog bushing for the driver's side of the rough country track bar. Then I had to go to the, you know, I removed all that. I was just test fitting. Then I went to the passenger side of the track bar where I had to press out the original rough country bushing there. And again, I tried using that Honda spindle nut. In this case, it worked. It was a tough job pressing, especially since I don't have a good vise on my bench. But anyway, let's continue with the video. Success. Pressed it out finally, the other end. And on this one, spindle nut did in fact help. Wow. Now, these Moog bushings are really easy to push in. There's some resistance, and there better be, because they're supposed to fit snugly. But they go in pretty tight. And you can just, I mean, I'm just using my hands here. They also stick out a little bit, and I think that's intentional. So getting them even, tough. Just keep working at it till you do. And then this sleeve goes in really easily. There's like, it's like perfect clearance. It's a little bit, this piece is just a tiny bit narrower than the hole, so you have no problem. And on the passenger side bolt for this rough country forged track bar, this fits in the sleeve. So the other end uses a bigger bolt than this one. So for this end, I am going to order something specific to the size and stuff that I need, or I may get, you know, a proper bushing and a different bolt to go through it. So there you go. All right, so that side's assembled. Much more confident about this side. Let's go ahead and reinstall at this point. That is a super tight fit. Trying to get that in and through. I'm doing the top one first. Very, very tough. I just wheeling it back and forth, pushing in that hole. Oh, and by the way, I got the wrong bolts for those, so let's do that next time. Finally got it in. I had to grease the insides of the bracket there so it would slip more easily. And just keep working at it. Get the sledgehammer out, pound it, wriggle it, pound it, you know, do what you gotta do. So I had to rig up the ratchet strap because this thing just a little bit off from the hole. Let me see if I can get it. It's just a tiny bit off. I'm almost there. But I don't have another person to help me turn the steering wheel, so let's give this a couple of ratchets. See if that did it. I can't find it. Oh, we're getting real close. Real close. I need both hands to do this. Sorry, guys. Got it in. Ratchet strap was almost in my way, but so what I did was I just hooked up one end of the ratchet to the kind of the area where the sway bar link connects to the front axle, and the other end to just a hole in the front of the frame over here. So that's it. At this point, all I gotta do is put the bolts on, torque it. I'll have to look up the torque specs, but I'll put that at the end of the video. So manual says 75 foot-pounds for the The one down here, 74 foot-pounds actually. So I'm going to do this one 74 foot-pounds. Someone tell me if I'm wrong in the comments. Well, it's installed. Before, I could actually wiggle this by hand and you could see it move. Now it's very secure. So I'm going to mark the bolts, call her a day. So one thing to do when you're under your car is always take the chance to inspect and get a close look at stuff. Look at that boot on my tie rod end there for steering. It's chewed up, hasn't broken through yet, but I got to replace that. Oh, and make sure you check. Just measure, pick the same point on the tire on either side, same point in the wheel well on either side against the frame. Measure the distance out to the edge of your tire. I'm picking one of the edges of the tread here, just to make sure it's the same on each side. If it isn't, you got to adjust your track bar and everything, but I was pretty careful to keep it the same setting, so I think I'm pretty good.
I'm in my super bumpy 2000 XJ after replacing the bushings. It's the day after, taking the car to work and I'm driving it home. Highway riding, every single one of these bumps I can feel, but so far the bushings have held, so it made it through the first day of use.
And an update to my update. It's been about a week since I replaced that track bar, and everything's holding fine. The Moog on both ends are actually still solid. No hint of even a death wobble. I do notice that with these more stiff polyurethane bushings, I can actually feel even a little bit more of the road. So that is one thing to consider. These are very stiff. Anyway, what I did find, I did a bunch of research, and I talked with the guys at Iron Rock Off-Road. And if you don't know about Iron Rock Off-Road, go to their website. They've got tons of great stuff. A lot of it is made in America. I don't know how much fabrication they do themselves, but they are just, customer service is awesome. I've bought shims from them in the past. All my shims I've actually gotten from them, and they're just great quality stuff. They make their own track bar, and I highly suggest if you haven't, if you're looking for a strong track bar, I think their track bar has gotten great reviews, and it's very solid. But I've never run it, so I can't say that for sure, but definitely consider it. What I can say is that the bushings, they make replacement bushings for their track bar. And what I found was that for the top part, the driver's side of the track bar, my rough country forged track bar, I'll put a link so you know exactly which one I'm talking about below. The top bolt is actually in diameter. The shank or the shaft is 12 millimeters, and that's why it wouldn't fit in the Moog bushings. Those Moog bushings are actually just made for the lower part of an OEM track bar that comes with your XJ. So I was a little bit unfair with my frustration with Moog. But this Iron Rock Off-Road, I haven't installed it yet. It looks like it's exactly the right dimensions. That sleeve is for a 12 millimeter diameter bolt. And the polyurethane part there, well made. I think it's made in America. Those are almost exact dimensions for your rough country track bar. So this should work. I haven't installed it yet, though. Like I said, I'll have to come back to you on that one. And then the Moog bushings, they seem to be pretty good. And it says made in the USA on the polyurethane. So this might not be your typical Moog, Chinesium product, but the sleeve there is the perfect diameter for your lower 10 millimeter bolt that comes with your rough country track bar. So if you've got a rough country, my recommendation, take that thing out when you get a chance. Try swapping out the bushings before you get death wobble. And these would be my recommendations to try. No guarantees here, but so far, even though I imperfectly drilled the Moog, I'm having great luck with it so far. But again, it's only been a week. I'll update you if I have problems or anything like that. For the meantime, though, hope you guys have a good day. Doc out. Oh, you made it to the end. That's awesome. Listen, I'm Doc. I'm the one who's, the voice behind these videos. And I really appreciate you taking the time to actually watch the whole thing. That's fantastic. If you've got time, if you want to, if you like the video, hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the bell button so you get notified of new videos when I put them up. I'm going to try and do one a week. And I'm going to do a bunch of Instagram stuff, so make sure you follow me there and on Twitter. Instagram's going to be the shorter stuff. I don't have any merchandise yet. I'm planning to as the channel grows. If I succeed, I'll get some merch. For now, if you really want to help me in another way, you like these videos enough, I'm going to put links to my books in the description of the video. I'm a science fiction author in my spare time as well, so I'm juggling a lot of balls. But anyway, I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you at the next one. Hey, do me a favor and turn this junk off. I don't know how to deal with tech.